All right, guys. So in this video, I'm going to attempt to mimic the discussion that we had with the rest of my classes on A Day. So I know it's really unfortunate that it's Wednesday and you guys are online today. So I'm sorry about that. But we just don't have time in our schedule for me to not do this lesson. So um, just make sure you listen to this video or watch this video in its entirety because it's super important. And I'll explain why kind of at the end. So you're going to need to go to Schoology, and you'll see on this lesson that one of our first activities after you do the warm up and vocab and book love is this Padlet discussion. Okay, and this is a link, so you're just going to click that link. When you click it, it's going to take you to this screen right here. All right, so what I did here, it's not too long. Okay, there's just a couple of APEs on here. And what I did was I started grading or looking through some of your independent apes. And I realized that it just wouldn't be fair for me to start grading those right now because they're just not right. and so what I decided to do was I wanted to talk with you about what we're trying to do here. And so I went to the activity that we did Thursday and Friday where we got into groups and we talked on those jam boards. You guys remember you had about 10 apes, kind of like this, and you guys wrote your responses in your teams. So I went on to those jam boards and I chose a couple of examples of things that I need you to be aware of and put them on here. Okay. I did take everybody's name off, so nobody's name is on here. And I'm not trying to bash anybody. We're trying to use these as a learning tool. Okay. Then I went on here and I added 3 of my own apes. Okay. So what I want you to do is set yourself like a 6-minute timer or so, and I want you to read all of these. And I want you to do a couple of things. You don't have to write this stuff down. I just want you to think about this, okay? I want you first to go, which 3 are the 3 that I wrote? Okay? And once you think you know which 3 are the 3 I wrote, I want you to ask yourself, how do you know that those are the ones I wrote? Okay? What about them makes them different from the rest of them? Okay? Then I want you to keep reading. I want you to keep reading all of the other ones, the ones that are written by you guys. Okay. And I want you to ask yourself, what are we doing well in these apes? And then where are we struggling? What are the parts that we're really messing up on? Okay. Because we need to fix this. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video right here and think about those things. All right, so if you have finished reading and unpaused your video, okay? Now, this is the part we discussed in class, and I had kids try to guess which 3 were mine, okay? And we talked about the answers to the questions I just asked. So this is a little bit more boring for you guys because I'm just going to be explaining without our discussion part, and that really sucks, so I'm sorry. But if you decided that this Frederick Douglass one right here was written by me, you'd be correct, okay? This was written by me. If you decided that this Miss Kofer one was written by me, you are correct. That one was also written by me. And if you decided that this one right here, Thoreau's tone in this excerpt, was written by me, you are correct. These are the 3 that I wrote. Okay. So if you're thinking about how did you know that these are the 3 I wrote? In class today, we talked about several points. Firstly, the punctuation in these are probably on point, right? They're not all the way perfect, they're pretty close to perfect. Okay. Then a couple of students mentioned that mine were longer. And it's not really that they're longer that's important, guys. And I tried to make one that was short to show you that you can do the same thing in less words. But the part that's explaining, don't want to do that. I am really explaining, right? Like I am really picking very specific things in my explanations to talk about. I'm referring back to the quote that I picked, and I'm mentioning that and why that quote proves my point, okay? So, specificity is super important in APES. You have to be super specific in your answer and then super specific in your explanation. It does require more than one sentence. Most of the time, it's going to require more than two sentences, okay? Especially if you have these sentences at the end that are like bow ties, where you kind of summarize your beginning, okay? Also, students noted that word choice was a big difference between mine and the student ones, right? Like I'm using words like facilitate and highlighting and comparison. I'm using words like illuminated, um, um, mm, I don't know, intellectually stimulated. I'm just really trying to use words that challenge our vocabulary and bring it up to that next level. Okay. So I want you to use these as an example as examples when we move on into our next activity. Okay. Then in class, we kind of looked at some of these student ones and talked about what we were noticing. Okay. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things. You notice that I had tons of apes that had no quote in them at all. Okay. You'll notice we had some quotes or some apes that were actually pretty good, but there was some punctuation problems, right? We have in the text it states that should be a comma there, right? Um, um, you'll notice there. Here's one right here. A lot of students they put their answer. They did give an introduction. There should be a comma here, and there's a quote, but there's no explanation. Okay. Here's a really good example of something I saw a lot of. It says the author makes the reader feel close to nature. Okay. It is verging on a pretty good answer, except it's just not specific. So be sure that when you answer these questions, not only are you telling me what is the answer, but why is that answer important? Why is it important that the author is close to nature, right? Then you'll see that their quote is really good. It's the same quote that I actually use in this one, okay? And then you get to the example and it says, this means he knows his way through nature. Again, we're like, so what? What's the point, right? Like you really have to dig into this and explain why is this important, okay? Um, Again, over here, we have an explanation. It says he repeats that he wants a wife multiple times because he wants to make it clear that he needs her to do things for them. Little grammatical error there, but it's not a terrible answer or anything, right? But then when we get to explanation, he just says he just wants a companion. But there's no digging deeper, right? Like why does he want a companion? What does this say about him? Why is him repeating that word I want a wife going to help him get a companion? So how does it contribute to the argument, right? Um, this one right here is an interesting one. It's one of the better apes that I saw written by students. Okay. It says the author's central claim is that life can be easy and seem simple, but it's honestly pretty scary and dangerous, right? Great answer. Their quote is great. Then when we go down here to the explanation, they really did try to explain it. We believe the quote because the article states and explains that life is taken simply and for granted, and that life is dangerous. The article tells us not to simplify others too much. So it's a really great answer. The big problem with this one is we see the we believe. I just want to remind y'all that this year you are working on arguments. That is our one of our major goals, arguments. Okay. On the EOC, you have to write your own argument. If you are trying to convince something, and all answers are arguments, right? You are arguing that you are right. Okay. So when you are making an argument and you say, we believe, or I think, we talked about this when I gave the lesson initially, right? You don't have to say I believe or we think or I think, right? Because we already know that's what you think. You're the one writing this. So when you're arguing something and you say I think, it really takes away from your argument because the reader is going to be like, "Well, why should I care what you think?" right? You're nobody, you know? That's mean to say, but it's kind of true, right? Like, who are you? Like, why do I care what you think, right? Not only that, Well, and I know why students say "I think" a lot or "we believe." It's because a lot of the times you guys are in the 10th grade, right? So you're just approaching, you're beginning and you're practicing. And sometimes you're looking at these passages and you're like, "I don't know what the answer is." And you're kind of like making it up as you go, right? And so you're not 100% confident. And so you use these words like "I believe" or "I think" as kind of a crutch, to say in case you're wrong so that you don't feel bad about being wrong. But what I'm saying is that when you're making an argument, you don't want to do that. You just want to say it as if it's the truth because it's more convincing. As soon as someone says "we believe" or "I think," you immediately lose the reader. Okay. I mean, I could say, "I believe I should be a millionaire," right? The words "I believe" or "I think" don't have a lot of power. Okay. So if they would have just started, the article states and explains that life is taken simply, then it's so much more powerful because that is like the explanation. We don't need the rest of this. They can just cut that out. Okay. Um, so that's a lot of the big mistakes that I'm seeing, and we had a whole discussion. And obviously, I don't want to sit here and make a super long video for you guys, listening to my stupid voice. So I just wanted to point this stuff out to you because if you look on Schoology, you are going to be answering a grit ape. So this is the last ape that we're going to do. It says the final ape practice. Okay. And I'm giving you one more because I felt after reading the apes that maybe I was giving you too hard of passages. And I wanted to give you a chance to practice writing the ape on a passage that was a little bit easier. Okay. Then this is the big thing you need to pay attention to. After you finish this grit ape, I am allowing you to use your notes, okay, in the notes section, notes and cheat sheets. I am allowing you to use this Padlet, okay? There's examples on there. And I am allowing you to choose one of the ape responses we've done, right? We've done the independent ape, we've done the team ape, and now you'll do the grit ape. You're going to pick the best one that you've done. You have until Friday, okay, to revise this ape, okay, according to the examples that you've seen and the things that I'm telling you need to be fixed, right? And you are going to turn in your best ape, okay, by Friday at 12 p.m. And this is going to be a test grade, okay? And I did open up a submission. You're going to submit it right here. Please don't just submit it by the end of the day today, okay? I want you to take your time. Look at the example that I've given you in your notes. Look at the example that I've given you on the Padlet, okay? Read through the student mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes, okay? Um, so make sure that you revise your APE so that it's the best APE so that your first test grade is as high as you possibly can get it. Okay. I am going to be super critical on these APEs. Okay. I'm going to take off points for misspellings. I'm going to take off points for grammar. I'm going to take off points for commas and quotation marks in the wrong spot. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody got to participate in this Padlet discussion, and that you could see these examples and be able to use them. And I also wanted to make sure I explained to you how your first test grade is going to work. Remember, if you have any questions, make sure you email me tomorrow. I will be by my computer. All right, guys, good luck.